Hey everyone, my name is Robert. I am really excited to share a big update to Macrowhisper. This is related to some automations I built for Superwhisper, my go-to dictation app. To give you some context, Superwhisper is an amazing tool for productivity and AI assistance. It's awesome for dictation, but what made this app even more powerful were some automation possibilities I discovered for it. A while back, I created some Keyboard Maestro macros that let users do a lot of stuff with their voice, opening websites, having AI chats in any text editor, sending their dictation to other automation apps, and these macros even showed Superwhisper's active mode in the menu bar. I got a lot of positive feedback, which was great, but I also received quite a few emails from users who found the setup process too complicated. Others wanted to customize the macros but found it really challenging. So, about a month and a half ago, I had an idea that I thought could make Macrowhisper much more accessible and powerful. What if I tried a completely different approach? So, here's the news that I want to share. Macrowhisper is now a CLI application. Now, being a CLI means it doesn't have a user interface. Users need to set this up with terminal and some commands, but everything now runs on a configuration file that I believe is easier to understand, and once it's set up, you probably don't need to mess around with it anymore. By making Macrowhisper its own app and building it with Swift, we now have way more power than we had before with Keyboard Maestro alone. The Keyboard Maestro macros are now just an extra option. There's a totally new documentation online that explains how to do everything we were doing before, but even without Keyboard Maestro, users can do a lot. Of course, if you're familiar with automation tools, you will have superpowers because I built this with flexibility and customization at its core. Let's look at the key features we currently got in Macrowhisper. You may be familiar with some of them, but stay with me because their implementation has changed. First up, we have voice-triggered automations, like the ones for opening websites with simple commands. I can say, ask Google, what's the weather today? And Google opens up with my answer ready to go. But here's something new. We now have application triggers and Superwhisper mode triggers. This means actions can happen automatically based on what you are doing on your computer or what Superwhisper mode you are using. This means, for example, if I am on my notes mode in Superwhisper, I can set it so that whatever I dictate with it, it automatically goes to a new note. What else can we do? In this update, I have simplified the terminology to make things more clear. Think of Macrowhisper as an automation app with triggers and actions. We have insert actions that control how your results paste to your front app or stay in your Superwhisper recording window. There are URL actions, shell scripts, Apple scripts, and built-in shortcut support. Macrowhisper also has some history management features. You can choose how many days of history to keep in your Superwhisper recordings folder, and this app cleans everything up automatically every 24 hours. You can also set this at the dictation level if you prefer. This means that with a new trigger system, you can make Macrowhisper delete whatever you dictate with a specific Superwhisper mode or whatever you dictate while you are in a specific app right after processing. The real magic will happen when you see the possibilities for yourself. You decide how far to take it. Keep it simple or go complex. One important thing that I will say here is that if you installed the previous version of the macros, make sure to uninstall the FSWatch service. That's not needed anymore. Also, all the macros have been rebuilt. Many of you probably will not even need them anymore. But if you customize the previous version, I recommend watching this video or read the documentation because the new system works differently and you will need to make some changes to adapt your setup. When I shared the first version, I made separate videos for each different section, but honestly, I have been working on this for over a month already, and I just want to get it out there. So please, I invite you to check the documentation if you want to get the most out of this. For the rest of this video, I will show you how to set this up and walk you through some of the most essential things you need to understand from the configuration. But I want to be honest about something. I built this entire app with AI. I didn't write a single line of code myself. Actually, it's amazing that it works considering that I don't really know how to code, but that's exactly my point. I took a chance to experiment and learn something new. If you see yourself as a more basic user, don't let the fact that this is a CLI app scare you away. Whether you are a beginner or advanced user, I am sharing this because I think it's truly useful and anyone can take advantage of it. First, let's talk about installation. We have two options available. Both of them are equally simple. It's just whatever you feel more comfortable with. The most common option is installing through Homebrew. Homebrew, which you have to install separately, is a package manager for Mac. It is convenient because it can also manage app updates automatically. The other option is running one simple script. You just copy this and run it in terminal. The script will download the binary and install it in the right place for you. For this demo, I will run the installation through Homebrew so that you can see how it works. I just copy and paste this in terminal. It shows the process and we are good. After installation, before anything else, considering that this may be the first time you are running Macrowhisper, let's check the configuration. I will run this command in terminal. Macrowhisper reveal config. And this will show us the file in Finder. If there's no configuration file, a new one gets created with the basic settings. Let me tell you about the different components of Macrowhisper. There's the application itself, then there's the configuration file, and then there's a background service. The background service is what keeps the application running and restarts it automatically when you restart your computer. At this point, I want you to know three commands that will give you control over this. Macrowhisper start service will install the service if it's not installed yet, and then it will run it. Macrowhisper stop service will stop it. This is a good one to know if you want to temporarily stop the app or if you encounter any issues. Just be aware that if you only stop the service, it will still restart when you restart your computer. And because of that, we also got the Macrowhisper uninstall service command, which completely removes it. Right now the application is not running, but before we start it, I want to tell you something important. Macrowhisper does one online call when you first start it up and 24 hours every time after that. This is only to connect with GitHub and check if there's any updates available. If there's any update, it will show a dialog telling the user about this. But if you don't want this behavior for any reason, you can disable it. We can go to the configuration file, and this one that says no updates, you want to turn it into true. Also, since we're here, another essential setting that you want to check is the watch folder. Everything that Macrowhisper does depends on this correct path because it's checking for new recordings to appear in Superwhisper's recording folder. So if you moved it away from the default one, just make sure that this one is pointing to the correct place. Now I open Superwhisper for one moment because I want to show you some important settings that need to be in place so that the application interacts correctly with Macrowhisper. So let's go to advanced settings. You want to make sure that the recording window is enabled. Another thing is you want to make sure that close recording window automatically is toggled off. And let's go a little bit lower here where it says paste result text. I want to show you very quickly the default behavior of Superwhisper with this toggled on. So let me open a note. Now I am dictating something, and since I'm in an input field, well, when I'm in an input field, the text will go to my front app. But if I am not in an input field, like right now I just clicked on my desktop, if I dictate anything, there's nowhere for my text to go, so it stays on the recording window. With Macrowhisper, we will have absolute control of that behavior, so we want to toggle this off. Another thing that you want to make sure you disable here is the restore clipboard after paste, because this is also built in Macrowhisper and we don't want any conflicts between both apps. With all those Superwhisper settings configured, we will now start the Macrowhisper service. So let me run the first command that I showed you before. If this is the first time that you are running the app, it should ask you for accessibility and system permissions. This is necessary for recognizing the input fields just like Superwhisper does it, and also for simulating some key presses like escape to close the recording window, for pasting to the front app, or even for detecting your current app and use it as a trigger. After you approve that, you will see a message saying it's all good and you can do a quick test. Open a text editor and dictate something, just checking if this works. Awesome. Now make sure you are not in an input field and try again. This is another test. As you can see, we turned everything off in Superwhisper, but now we got the exact same behavior. I want to break down for you how the configuration works. This part is really important, so pay attention. Think of Macrowhisper as having two levels of settings. First, you have your default settings. These are your baseline preferences that apply most of the time. Second, you have your active insert, which can override those defaults when needed. Right now, since I just installed the app, my active insert is set to auto paste. This means that even if my key press simulation is set to false at the defaults level, I can override this. Let's check out auto paste. These settings that you see as null or as empty double quotes is like I'm saying, I don't mind, just use the defaults. But if I set this to true or false, well, I am explicitly saying follow this when auto paste is active. And let me repeat one more time. This only happens when auto paste is the active insert. So now I can dictate something and guess which setting will Macrowhisper follow. Yes, the active insert. But we have one special case, and here I am talking about actions that get triggered by voice, by Superwhisper mode, or by the currently used app. In that situation, it's as if your specific action that was triggered temporarily becomes your active insert. It steps in and takes control using whatever settings you defined there. Let me show you what I mean by adding one more insert action to the mix. My preferred way of adding new actions is through terminal because when you do it like this, it gets added with the default values. So let's type Macrowhisper add insert and let's call it paste result. There it is. This is a good time to show you another feature, dynamic placeholders. So we go to the action field of this insert and let me type SW result. This placeholder will expand, giving me the result from Superwhisper. We will talk more about placeholders in a moment, but for now, let's continue with the key press setting. In the defaults, we have it set to false. In the active insert, which is auto paste, it's set to true. And in this new action, let's leave it with null. Remember, null or empty double quotes just means follow the defaults. In this case, let's give an app trigger to paste result. There. So now I am dictating some random text, and since I'm in Bear, the result will paste all at once. But I can switch to another application. Now I am dictating something that is not triggered by any app. And as you can see, the results will go typed character by character. My active insert, which is auto paste, takes priority on top of the defaults. But when I'm in Bear, paste result is the king. Guys, if you do a bit of an effort to understand this, you will have a tremendous amount of flexibility. You can have different behaviors for different situations, or you can have multiple actions that simply fall back to the default settings, but then one specific action that will do something different based on your own conditions. We also have some other automation possibilities that can add another powerful layer because we can set the active insert not only based on the built-in triggers, but also by sending commands to the app with other tools. But for now, I still want to focus only on what we can do with Macrowhisper by itself. The key press simulation is one of the most basic settings. That's why I used it as an example. But let's take a look at all the other available options. We have an action delay. The default is 0. This will be useful if, depending on your system specs, you need a tiny buffer so that there's no conflicts with the animation of Superwhisper's window and Macrowhisper action execution. We got an icon setting, which is for users that want to build more complex automations with Macrowhisper. If I'm on terminal, I can run Macrowhisper get icon, and it returns to me the icon of my currently active insert action. In this case, it's the bullet that I got set for auto paste. I use this command on my menu bar macro so I can always know what is active both in Superwhisper and in Macrowhisper. We got a no escape setting. This is for users that for any reason don't want to auto close the recording window. By the way, if you make an empty action, for example, let me clear auto paste, the recording window will not close and nothing will be pasted. Now I can dictate something, and since this is the active insert, my result stays up there. You can get the exact same behavior if you have no active insert in the defaults, but if you set it at the action level, you can attach this behavior to specific Superwhisper modes you only plan to use for assistance, for example. Moving on, we also got a setting for press return. And this one, what it does is that it will simulate the pressing of the return key after your result gets pasted to the front app. I know that some users only use Superwhisper for messaging apps, and that's why you can set it at the defaults level. But I personally think it will be more useful to set it at the individual action level. So, for example, we have this on paste result, and this is the one that I want to activate right now. So let's go here, press return, and let's say true. Now I want to make sure that paste result is the active insert. So I will do that. Did you see how fast did I change the active insert? Let me go back to auto paste, paste result. So that is because I have some commands mapped to my mouse button, and we can do that from terminal so that I can show you. Macrowhisper, and we just enter the name of the insert. And that's it. Now let's do it one more time. So there's one automation possibility there with terminal. Now let me go to a note, and I am dictating something with paste result. And as you can see, my result went there, and now my cursor is on the next line. This becomes even more useful when you are in a messaging app or a website. So let's go to ChatGPT. Hey, how are you doing? I don't even have to press anything, and my message is sent. This was just a quick test. This makes the conversation feel much more natural, and the flow is so much faster. Let's go back and set it as it was before. Remember that if we write null, this means that we will fall back to the default settings. We also got the Move To setting, which allows you to manage individual recordings right after processing them. This one is special because there's two main use cases for this. Let me open Finder. Now I will grab the path to any folder. Let's grab my desktop by pressing Control, Command, and C. I can paste this inside my Move To setting. In this case, I will go to my paste result action again. I will make sure it's the active insert. Let me open a note. Now I can dictate anything with my paste result action. And as you can see, my result went to my front app as expected. But if I go to my desktop, there's my Superwhisper recording folder. This may be useful for users that transcribe audio files. For example, after you transcribe them with a specific mode, let's say that you want to save the result to a text file, which can be done with a script action, as we will see later, and then your processed file can go to a specific location in your drive to keep track of what you have processed. But aside from moving your recording to a path, you can also use .delete and your recording will be deleted. So in this case, let me dictate something else. This is me 1, 2, 3. And if I open Superwhisper's history, there is no track of that. It's gone. You can do this at the default level for everything, at the active insert, or for any action that is executed because of trigger conditions. Now, since we're talking about the Move To setting and how it handles your recordings after processing, this is the perfect time to mention the history feature. This one works differently. It's only available at the defaults level, not for individual actions. It's a global setting that's turned off by default. Once you add a number here, Macrowhisper will keep your history for that many days. Every 24 hours, it automatically cleans up your recordings folder and deletes anything older than your set number. The lowest you can go is 0, and if you set it to 0, every 24 hours it keeps only the most recent recording. I find this one more convenient than setting delete in the Move To setting for all recordings, but it's up to you. You now have two options for history management. So far, we have only used the auto paste action, which is the default when you installed Macrowhisper, and we also created another simple paste result action. But with placeholders, there's a new level of customization. In the action field, you control how the result gets pasted to your front app or processed depending on the different action types. The only special case we have for insert actions is auto paste, which is executed when there's .autopaste. But other than that, let's say I want to insert some text. Let me go to paste result and type dictation. Now, if I dictate something, this is a very quick test. As you can see, what gets pasted to my front app is my text together with my dictation. In the previous version of the macros I shared, I told you guys how I use this to have back and forth conversations with AI and Superwhisper. This is now totally customizable for you. By using placeholders, you can build any templates you want. Let me open the Superwhisper recordings folder and open one meta.json file so that I can explain this a bit better. The meta.json file, which is created by Superwhisper, has many different fields in it. If your dictation was processed with AI, you'll have one item here called LLM result. There's also a simple result which holds your transcription without any AI processing. In Macrowhisper, the placeholder you will probably use the most is SW result. This one automatically detects if you used AI or not and gets the correct content for it. But aside from that, you can use any other key that you see inside Superwhisper's meta.json file. This means that I can create an action that says mode name. Then we want to enter a line break like this, processing time, another line break, result, and here we use the normal SW result. So with this, I can dictate something and I can get some info that can help me compare different models, how they run, what works faster, or similar stats. Here we go. For a moment, let's go back to the simple SW result because I want to show you something else. Placeholders support regex replacements. And let's do a very simple one here. Robert, and I want that one replaced by Arthur. Now I save. Let me open a note. Hello, my name is Robert. I know that Superwhisper has a text replacement feature built in, but I always wanted regex replacements because that's so much more powerful. And specifically in this case where we are using Macrowhisper to send results to scripts or to other applications, this can be really, really handy. Now that we already know about all the different settings and I have explained to you some of the possibilities with placeholders, I want to show you how this looks in a more practical way. We have talked about insert actions all this time, which I think is perhaps the main and most common uses for Superwhisper. But once we get past that, it can get really fun. In the documentation, there's a link to the configuration file I currently have set for myself. You can download it or simply check it for reference. If you replace your own configuration file with the one I'm sharing, make sure to restart the Macrowhisper service so that the new configuration is loaded correctly. In this file I'm sharing with you, you will see several examples. Let's try this shell script that saves everything to a text file on your desktop. Let me trigger this with an app condition so you can see how this works. Let's set it for Finder. And for this case, I will use a mode with AI. Hey, I am running a quick test and I need you to give me a 2-paragraph story. In this case, it doesn't matter what is my active insert because remember that the trigger will have priority over that. Okay, now here's my result. When you are setting triggers, you can set multiple options separated by a pipe character like this. This means that this will run when I'm on either bear or finder. Or you can set exceptions with an exclamation mark. For example, if I set my trigger like this, it means that this specific action will execute everywhere except bear or arc. Or we can change this to and specify a Superwhisper mode. Super. This means that this action will now execute whenever I am in Superwhisper's super mode as long as I'm not in bear or arc. You can go crazy by mixing and matching multiple trigger conditions or actions. You can be extra specific and set it so that something gets executed only when you are using a specific Superwhisper mode, using a specific app, and starting your dictation with a specific keyword. But watch out because this can get pretty complex. And you have to be careful that you don't have conditions that would match multiple actions at once, because if that happens, only one of those will run. So my suggestion is that you keep your triggers simple and specific. For my web searches, for example, I simply use triggers with Ask Google, Ask YouTube, Ask Perplexity, stuff that I know that I will not be using anywhere else and that is hard to be triggered by accident. Let's take a look at shortcut actions. With this kind of action, you can send your results from Superwhisper to a lot of different applications. In the sample configuration file that I'm giving you, I am sending stuff to this AI memos shortcut, which is a shortcut that I shared in another video. And here I am sending the date, I am sending the result from AI, and I am sending my dictation. But for now, let's do a simpler example. So let me open Terminal, and I will add a new shortcut action. Macrowhisper, add shortcut, and let's call this one test. When you are naming shortcut actions, in this case, the name is important because it has to match the actual name of the shortcut. And that's the only case where this is necessary. For all the other different type of actions, this is not really important. But in this case, I could even trigger this action and it will run the shortcut, even if I have my action here totally empty. So that's a special case. But for now, let's send the SW result placeholder. Okay, and as a trigger, let's use the one that I have for the other one. I will remove it from there and I will add it here. Make note. Save. Okay, now let's open the shortcuts application. I will make a new one. Let me close this window. Let's call this one test because it has to match. Okay, now let me create a note. Perfect. Let's do it with the native Notes app. And with the contents, we will set here insert variable, shortcut input, and the name of the note, we will set it to the date here, current date. Okay, good. Open when run. Good. So we are ready to test this. I have saved this. And let me say, make a note. This is a test to see if our shortcut integration is working. It's asking for permissions, always allow. And here we have our note. In the title, we have the date. In the text, we have what I dictated. As you saw, the trigger phrase, which was make note, was removed from my result. And this is something that only happens on the final result. It doesn't happen in those cases where you are sending your transcription through AI. This is something to be aware. So for example, if I open my Superwhisper history, here we have the entire thing, make note, but Macrowhisper cleans it up. What do I mean with this? Well, let me open Superwhisper. I think this is important that I spend a little bit of time explaining to you so that you don't feel surprised later. And I have this helper mode. This one has a little note that says ignore unnecessary make note phrase that may be included at the start of user message. With this little instruction there, then AI doesn't get confused when I tell it make note and it doesn't try to answer me like, oh, I don't have the capability of making notes or something. So that's just something to be aware of. I want to make a bit of a more complicated shortcut to show you another feature that I didn't mention before, but I'm seeing that I have the opportunity here. So I will be using this mode from Superwhisper, which is the helper mode, and I will add one more instruction here. This mode is very versatile. It simply instructs it to act like an assistant, but I will add something at the bottom. After responding to the user, you analyze the content both of the request and of your reply, and you give a title to the interaction. This title should be all the way to the bottom, delivered in between title XML tags. For example, and I give this example, title XML tag, a title XML tag. Let me go back. Now I can make another special kind of placeholder here. And this is for XML tags. So I will say XML. And the one that I told AI was title, everything in lowercase. Okay, good. Title. Perfect. And I will copy this from my example that I have here at the top, these two special characters. Okay. And I will also include the result, which is my transcription without AI processing. And again, we will separate it with these special characters. Okay, perfect. So I will be trying to send to the shortcut the special title that AI should give me within XML tags. I will be sending my dictated text without any AI processing, and then we will have AI processing also as well in there. Okay, now let's go to the shortcut. Let me copy these 2 characters and let's try to split that the moment that it arrives here. Split. This is totally improvised, guys. I didn't plan to do this, but I'm having this idea that I think it may be useful to some of you. So let's split the shortcut input by custom, and I will have these 2 special characters. Let's see. So we have 3 items. Okay. Then get item. Let's see this one here. Get the first item, and then we will get the second item. Item at index, number 2. Item at index, number 3. I have to make sure that they are grabbing it from the original split item. So let's select variable here, split text, select variable here, split text. Okay, we're good to go. So the first one, this one, will have the title that came in XML tags. The second one will have my transcription, and the third one will have the result from AI. Let me make kind of like a template. So let's put a text box here, and let's say transcription. The transcription was the item from index number 2. So insert variable, select variable, this one, and then the AI result. Insert variable, select variable, the number 3, and this text box will become the content of my note. Then the name of the note, I want, of course, the first item. The first item, remember, is this one, the XML tags title. Okay, I think it looks good. I am curious if this will work. Let's give this a shot. Now I have moved to a clean workspace. I make sure that I am on that Superwhisper mode that I edited before, and I'm ready to dictate. Make note. Please give me a short list of practical tips that will make my YouTube videos better. There we go. And look at this. We got our title, we got our request, and we got the reply from AI. And if we look at our Superwhisper history, here we can see that the title I requested is all the way to the bottom, and this was extracted by the special kind of XML placeholder I showed you. The different types of actions, plus placeholders, plus triggers, and all the different settings I have shown you so far will give you plenty to experiment with. And I haven't even covered integrating Macrowhisper with other automation tools. As I mentioned in the beginning, the documentation includes some Keyboard Maestro macros that replicate what the previous version did, but with this new app, everything should be much more simple than before. You can run Macrowhisper H in terminal to see all the available flags. You can use this with Keyboard Maestro, Raycast, Alfred, BetterTouchTool, anything. And specifically these ones that I'm highlighting here, you can use them to switch your active insert, get its name, get the icon, execute actions directly with keyboard shortcuts, or run Superwhisper results through a chain of more complex automations. The possibilities are truly endless. Everything I have covered here and more is documented in detail on the website, so please check it out. Guys, I have spent more time on this project than anything else I have shared so far. You have no idea how hard has it been for me to put this together, so I really hope you guys check it out. And this is the first time that I say something like this, but since this is open source and I am not making money from it, if you find this useful, I will also be grateful for any donation, even if it's just to cover what I spent on Cursor and getting a developer's account so that you guys could install and run this without issues. Any questions, I will do my best to help. If there's something you want me to dive deeper, I don't know, maybe maybe I can make another video in the future. I will also be very happy to hear your suggestions or ideas. A lot of what I built so far is based on the needs that I have heard from many other users. So please keep them coming. For now, I'm excited to have this online and also excited to see how you use it. Don't forget, you can sign up to my newsletter for updates on what I'm up to. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, I hope you find this useful.